Welcome to the second Vodcast. The aim of this video is to remind you of the importance of the lungs and their intimate relationship with the heart. As in the first Vodcast, we have some things that we should already know, and also we can see where we'll be adding more information in September. There are also some core questions that you should be able to answer from the video, so make sure you have notes on this and bring them to the lesson in September. Here are some extension questions which again you should research in your own time in order that you have a deeper understanding of the lungs and all their functions. Okay, welcome to some of the features inside your thorax. You should be familiar with all the labels in this diagram. Make notes and build on them with the questions that were on the previous slides. It's important that you understand the differences between cells, tissues, organs and organ systems. These labels shown in the diagram form the respiratory system, which is an organ system. Here we see in detail the alveoli, the elastin fibres and the blood capillaries. The function of the lung is not only to supply our cells with oxygen, but remove the waste products of respiration. And you remember from the previous podcast that respiration is taking place in the mitochondria. This is all done passively by diffusion because of the difference in concentrations between atmospheric and blood gas levels. Diffusion is the passive movement of molecules down a concentration gradient. Let's just recap how this all works. Oxygen moves into the blood vessel where it binds to hemoglobin. CO2 and H2O leave the blood vessel where it's expelled in the lungs. Diffusion is optimized by having a very large surface area and a very short diffusion distance. It also has a maintained gradient, and this is very important. The gradient is maintained in the air because of breathing, so you're constantly exchanging air in the lungs with air outside, and in the blood because of the action of the heart. This exchange takes place in nearly all living organisms. The axle beautifully shows its gills, which work exactly the same way as the lungs, relying on the diffusion of gases optimized by the large surface area, short diffusion distance, and concentration gradient. The amoeba is still respiring, but does not need lungs or a heart because it is a single cell and therefore has a large surface area to volume ratio. Oxygen diffuses straight into the cell and the waste products diffuse out. Examiners often expect you to apply numeracy to surface area to volume ratios, so let's go through it now. The cube has 1 centimeter sides, so what will its surface area be? Pause the video and work it out. You should have worked out that the surface area of one cube is 6 centimeters squared. It's important to include the unit of squared, otherwise you may lose marks. The volume then, let's see if you can work out the volume. Pause the video now. Okay, you should have worked out that the volume is actually 1 centimeter cubed. Again, it's imperative that you include the unit. The surface area to volume ratio allows you to compare cubes of different sizes together. So if we divide the surface area of 6 divided by 1, we end up with a surface area to volume ratio of 6. Okay, let's compare it with this cube which has 10 centimeter sides. Pause the video and work out the surface area and volume. You should have worked out that 10 times 10 times 6 gives a surface area of 600 centimeters squared. Remember, it's squared. The volume of the object is going to be the surface area to volume ratio. Then when you divide 600 by 1000 gives you a ratio of 0.6. The ratio allows us to compare cubes of different sizes. The smaller cube having a much larger surface area to volume ratio of 6 means that diffusion will take place much quicker, therefore gases will diffuse into the mitochondria much faster and waste gases will fuse out much faster as well. So larger organisms increase their surface area by having specialized surfaces such as lungs or gills, whereas the smaller organism can simply rely on diffusion to have gases enter and leave the cell. The alveoli act as lots and lots of these little squares, increasing the surface area of the lungs dramatically. Without the alveoli, the surface area of the lungs is reduced by a factor of 754 times. You may have heard the fact that the surface area of an average person's lungs is 60 to 80 meters squared, which is roughly the same size as a tennis court. Cystic fibrosis reduces the optimal gas exchange in the lungs. The diagram illustrates the problem that the diffusion distance increase between the normal and affected bronchioles. The alveoli will also become clogged with mucus. You can see how sufferers overcome this by physiotherapy in the links we've given you. Okay, so you should be able to answer these core questions now, as well as doing research. Bring your notes and questions with you to the first lesson in September, and I'll see you then.